Um, as certified ChatGPT expert and prompt engineer, Erin has dedicated her career to ensuring technology reflects the diversity of our world. During this special event, Erin will share some tidbits and thoughts of her journey as a Black woman in tech, some of the challenges she may or may not have faced, and her mission to build AI systems that are equitable, culturally aware, and respectful of diverse experiences. So that's the hey, read it bio, it's official background. But something that I'm not sure that you all know that is equally, if not more important, is that Erin has a special set of skills in that I can play any Beyonce song, and within the first, how much time, Erin?
We'll say 1 to 2 seconds to be safe. That
Okay. Within the first 1 to 2 seconds, she knows what the song is. So first, let me make sure that you can hear me, okay? Audio. And we're going to test that. And this is going to be a nice little entree to the conversation we're about to have because
dun, 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 dun,
that was
dun.
an easy one. Okay. Wait,
Uh-huh.
you didn't say what it was. You finished the beat, but what song is it?
Is it Crazy in Love?
It is. Good job.
Ah!
Good job. Okay.
I feel like falling in love.
Yeah. That's a new album. That's a new one. I wanna go dancing. I never thrift. That's literally my karaoke warm-up song.
Good stuff. And then last one, I'm gonna play. Uh, did you hear that?
I couldn't hear it.
Okay. Let's take it from the top again.
Can't hear it.
You still can't?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Technical difficulties on my end. Un momento, por favor.
All good. But thank you for that intro.
Yeah, it was freedom because I was like, oh, this is the perfect segue because um anyway, so hi, thank you. So glad that you're here with us today.
Absolutely.
So in the intro we mentioned ChatBlackGPT, right? And would you say that that's your calling card to fame? Like, um,
Hmm.
if you say, hey, this is what you should know about me, what's associated with me, is that the primary thing that people ask about? Or is it what other things do you reference prior to that in correlation with you? Like when somebody say, "Hey, I'm so and so,
Mhm.
creator." I saw that you put was it founderpreneur that
Uh-huh.
title?
Entrepreneur. Uh-huh.
So yeah, tell us about that. Like, how did ChatBlackGPT come to be, and how do you find, or do you find identity as part of that, or is that an outpouring of who you are? Do you feel it reflective is I feel
Yeah.
like I jumbled that question. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, good. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I love being a founder. I think a lot of people are drawn to me probably because when they read something I write, it's the silent part out loud a lot of times.
Mm,
I'm not really held to, a standard of a company voice right now. And
mhm,
because I have so much experience across like tech and like corporate, and I say so much as in like 5 years, but
mhm.
because of that, I know what you can and can't say, but I'm okay to say it. And I think that's what I'm known for. So being vulnerable, not gatekeeping, walking through like the opportunities I get, it's not because it was special. Maybe it's because I asked for it. Maybe it's because I, fought my way into this kind of position just by making myself available in certain ways. So it's like, yeah, I think that would be my staple is the vulnerability piece.
Mm. And how did that take shape with the creation of ChatBlackGPT, or has it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in general, when you're creating, and I will have a crazy kitten, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
When you're creating something and you are in a place in your life that innovation can take center stage, it's
Mhm,
not hard to kind of get like lost in what you're doing. But when I was learning about I was learning about it publicly. I like to
mhm,
learn in front of people to help bring others along to do things that they thought they couldn't do. When I was laid off from Meta, I went into AI because I just thought, I want to have control over my relationship with technology. And this is the most technical thing that I can see at
mhm,
that time. So I dove right in and doing that out loud and having conversations and getting to know other people and learning from experts, I realized there was an issue with the bias. But I do have a bias for action. And
mhm,
so after learning how it's built from scratch and actually learning how to build neural networks and like going from the bottom all the way up, I decided that maybe it's not so much a data thing, 100%, because that was kind of the excuse. Like, it's the data. We don't have enough black data or something like that. And I'm like, that cannot be the case. And I said, why are we not taking a closer look at the algorithm and the way that those are built? So being vulnerable and asking those questions out loud kind of helped me evolve into, the person that was confident enough to build ChatBlackGPT. And I did that all on LinkedIn. You can go back on my page and see the very beginning before I even came out with it.
mhm.
Yeah.
The take control of your relationship with technology. That's an interesting way to phrase that. And I think that's interesting. It can take so many um, different paths. Um, you mentioned LinkedIn specifically
Hmm.
and utilizing it. And I know recently you made a post about someone who was like, I'm not looking for a job. I don't need to be on there. But you specifically have shown how that tool can be leveraged. And, with you being mentioning vulnerable, and I think some folks, um, that's something that all of us, I won't even say they, everyone potentially wrestles with, like how much of yourself do you show when and,
Hmm.
to what level? And then add to it, LinkedIn it has I was going to say stereotype, but a perceived purpose. And
Hmm.
so for folks to for you to cross not to cross the line, but to still show up as your authentic self and be vulnerable on that platform,
Hmm.
what are some of and it's worked for you. What would be your response? And then if you wanted to give some context to that post for the other folks who might not have seen it.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, so what was happening was I was at the Congressional Black Caucus convening their national conference downtown here in DC. And there was like the floor where you have all the booths and like all of the different vendors, and there was a line for like coffee. And I was standing in line, and it's appropriate to have small talk and conversation with the people because it's a networking and business building event. That was the setting. So I'm having small talk with this person, and I'm just doing the courtesy of
Mhm,
saying, "Oh, okay, great, awesome." She was like, "I've been going here for 40 years." A lot of people assumed it was a man. It was a woman, actually.
mhm,
She was like, "I've been coming to this conference for 40 years, blah, blah, blah." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, wisdom, I can learn from that.
mhm,
And I wanted to connect with her. And I'm just like, "Would you like to exchange LinkedIn?" And she said, "Honey,
mhm,
LinkedIn is for people who need jobs. I don't need a job." Clutching her pearls and all. And I'm like, how can you be offended that I tried to connect with you on a connection platform? But,
right.
and the post was kind of about me gentle parenting because I can't just like judge her just as she's
Mhm,
judging me. Um, I have to be mindful that maybe she's afraid of LinkedIn. Maybe she gets online social anxiety or something like that. Maybe there's other reasons for her to say that. But for somebody who's in a leadership position, it definitely fell short for me. And so talking about that experience is like it stuck with me. Why do I keep remembering it? Right. So that vulnerability piece when it comes to like being on LinkedIn, it has to do with pulling from your real life experiences. Like I genuinely was bothered.
mhm,
But I wasn't trying to like um call her out or like say anything rude. It's just different styles of leadership and how you can take advantage of things if you're open-minded. And so
Mhm.
I had a call to action for executives to be like, okay, if you're here, thanks for being here and not being too good to be here, but also you can do more.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I think when I write my posts on LinkedIn.
I do. Can you share a little bit of your journey in the tech industry prior to founding ChatBlackGPT?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I moved from Michigan to Seattle uh, to pursue tech. My dad worked for Boeing and he kept telling me that, oh, there's headquarters out here. There's a bunch of money you can make. You need to
Mhm.
look into engineering and software engineering. And I'm like, what is software engineering? Again, small town Michigan. It just
Right.
never even occurred to me.
Mhm.
And so when I came out, and I remember really like I could not fathom, I could not compute what software engineering was. And
Mhm.
that was so frustrating to me. It almost scared me. And so like when I have those kind of moments, I just research. I like to educate myself, arm myself with knowledge.
Yep.
So I'm figuring these things out and I'm like, oh, well, I don't have a degree in that. I don't have a certification in that. I can't do that, but I still wanted to work in tech.
Mhm.
So I went a different route, which was through recruiting and HR and those type of roles, people management. Recruiting doesn't have a degree you have to have. Recruiting doesn't have a certification or whatever. It's really sales and you have to be good at that. So that's how I got into tech
Mhm.
was from my recruiting skills that I got from working at recruiting agencies. My first job in tech was at Microsoft. It's not on my profile. I worked at Microsoft 2 times, but it was for the interns that were coming in for the summer. It was like a temporary contract. And what I did was like make sure they had housing, their stipends. I'm cutting 18-year-old kids $15,000 checks. Okay.
Mhm.
Like it was such an eye-opening experience for me. But I went for Microsoft and then I went to Facebook after that. And it was actually the Oculus research and development site in Redmond. And I was running, hiring engineering teams and contractors to fulfill SOWs on site. That was great. Then I went to Amazon for a year, back to Microsoft for 5 months, and then I went back to Meta where I converted full time and worked there for a couple years. So my journey in tech was non-traditional, but I think what really solidified it was the pivot from HR to project and program management, which ended in technical project program management and UX research and global teams. So yeah, it was very like this,
Mhm.
but I knew what I wanted and I was going to make it happen regardless. So yeah, a little messy, but
Listen, I understand the mess and can relate to the mess, and I think a lot of folks can. Um, there are plenty of people who want to get into the industry, cybersecurity, definitely, but even into tech in general.
Mhm.
And I think so many people think there's only one way to do it.
Mhm.
So hearing from someone who's been able to, hey, I entered this way, and then I was able to pivot and adjust and build, and then eventually start your own. I think a lot of people glorify entrepreneurship without acknowledging any of the struggle and the hard work that goes into it.
Mm.
I actually saw a meme the other day, and it was like, if you haven't woken up thinking, forget it, I'll just get another job, you haven't really, done the entrepreneurship.
Oh,
What what are some of the things that have surprised you? I mean, part of the creation of ChatGPT, as you mentioned, was to control your relationship with technology. So just hearing that, that sounds okay. That's powerful. Now you've got the power, you have your own company, everything is a sunshine and rainbows, which some of it might be, but what's something that has surprised you starting on that journey there?
yeah. What surprised me was like, yeah, I have those thoughts all the time. It would be so much easier to just get a job because then you're told what your expectations are
Mhm.
and you can meet those expectations and get a paycheck. You can exceed those expectations and get a paycheck, but it's still something set that you know how to deliver on and what to do. And that is very tempting. And I actually was so tempted at one point where I was feeling kind of like, okay, I don't know where money's going to come from. My
Right.
severance was gone, blah, blah, blah. I invested all those dollars. And it was more towards the beginning of my journey, actually. And I started interviewing. I interviewed at Accenture. And Accenture, uh, the role, I was making 128,000 in Meta. The role I was interviewing for was like $215,000 role. So it was for a responsible AI advisor in consulting. So, you know, it's a lot of work. And I made it to the final round on my very first try interviewing at Accenture. That's not easy to do at all. But what surprised me was that in that final round, I literally blanked out, like just gone. I have this lady, she's the principal of the director of the senior vice president. I'm like, I got nothing for you today. I'm so sorry. I was like so apologetic and honestly embarrassed. But what the problem was is that I knew that this job would require 80% travel. That would not allow for me to be able to do much of anything with ChatBlackGPT. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really in my heart. And I think out of insecurity of feeling like, oh my God, if I'm too independent, you know, I can't get hired again. I wanted to interview. And I think part of me wasn't expecting to get that far. And then when I did, I knew that really wasn't what I wanted. And so my mind just wouldn't allow me to perform in that last interview. And so her and I just had a nice chat. And she didn't end it early, but like I did not get that job. Obviously, but it's like that surprised me that even when you get insecure and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get a job. It's almost like you know you don't want that job. You want to do your thing, and then it kind of reignites you to just try harder to make it work. So yeah.
Okay. So what was some of, excuse me, the challenges that you faced while developing? And that could be personal, professional, technical. Um, what were some of the things that were highlighted while you were developing ChatGPT?
Yeah, you know, it's like so ChatGPT as it stands right now is a free product. I say free for the public. It's not free for me. It's not free for obviously the companies hosting these you know, because we have two, one through OpenAI and then we have our own product. But it's like even though I'm not selling anything, people will still come up with reasons for me to not do what I'm doing. And it's always I'm like, what the hell? And so I had this guy, this grown man, you know, like, oh, well, what do you do? What do you do? And then they always look at my name tag like Chat Black GPT. I'm like, yep, that's it.
That's it.
Chat Black, 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 Black. And I had this grown man literally look me in my face, and I'm like, yeah, it's rooted in historical, like accurate information that helps have the Black lived experience be more relevant in the output. So, for example, and I didn't say this to him, but just for your guys' understanding, like a lot of people are trying to get rid of critical race theory classes, ban AP Black history, blah, blah. So just pretend everything they're trying to get rid of is like the core knowledge base of this GPT, of ChatBlackGPT. And so as it gives you answers, it's like, oh no, racism does exist. And that's why this is like that. So that's what it is. And he looked me dead in my eye and said, well, we can't really validate Black history because we weren't there. I was so shooketh. I said, sir, how did you make it through history class? Do you believe in the Bible, sir? Are you religious? We were in Texas. I'm like, how can you say that? I was so upset and triggered, frankly. And I was like, well, that's why I work with historians who dedicate their lives to doing that. And I had to walk away. And that's challenging. I had another man tell me that what I'm doing is racist.
Mm,
He said we don't need two definitions of culture. It doesn't make sense what you're doing. Like, why does that even matter? And I'm like,
mm,
culture to me is different than culture to someone else. And I think that's okay.
mhm,
I don't see anything wrong with it. Triggered by that man, got into a whole little spat. I could have been
mhm,
eating some damn barbecue, but I'm sitting here arguing with this dude. It's like there's there's those challenges. I had another person tell me, "Well, I get it, and I think it's nice what you're doing, but they're gonna fix it eventually. So I don't understand the point." There, meaning OpenAI and all these other big companies, they're gonna fix the bias. So what I'm
mhm,
doing is irrelevant and pretty much pointless. I would say that's the most challenging thing. Not
mhm,
letting people like that trigger you, take you off course, take your energy. Obviously, I'm still irritated to this day,
mhm,
but I'm not going online like, what doesn't said to me. I'm not doing all that. Like I'm sharing it with you guys openly, so you can learn from like what I went through and what I'm going through and like how I'm trying to make sure I don't let that bleed into how I lead the company and how I develop. So, yes, you will be challenged by pure ignorance, but you have to just take it for what it is and
mhm.
walk away. And I'm much better at walking away today.
So you mentioned vulnerability. Here's mine with the follow-up question there. I feel compelled um, you used the term gentle parent earlier,
Mhm.
to try to help people understand and say like, okay, that thank you for your feedback about history and Black history or whatever. If they live in Texas, we had Texas history. There's any historian knows that there. I had a class in college called Old South.
Oh,
There's
wow.
nothing wrong. Yeah, it was very interesting, and we could have a podcast just about that. But I digress. Um, but I try to find a way to relate to the person, but then I end up being frustrated with myself in that in my interest to because I don't want to alienate people and I want to give people the benefit of the doubt of, hey, you're asking this in that situation based at least at the very least based on your tone, it sounded as though excuse me, that person wasn't trying to be reached and they were just giving their opinion for the sake of it.
Hmm.
I think there are some people, benefit of the doubt, who genuinely don't know and would benefit from someone speaking to them. But then sometimes I feel like I'm too much in that route. How do you know which response to give the person? Whether it's a, hey, this is a learning opportunity. This is an option for me to say, hey, I hear what you're saying. Have you considered this? Do you know this? This is why this is important. Plead the case. And then there are other times where you said, like, don't give your energy and time to say, nope, we're cutting this off and we're moving on. How do you decide between the two as to which response a detractor or whatever would get?
Hmm. Yeah. So personally, I go off of like energy, body
Hmm.
language. A lot of how I operate, especially like with people in general, has to do with like my lived experience, my heightened ability to sense things because of like the trauma that I've been through.
Hmm.
And because of that, I'm very careful and very sensitive. So that's
Hmm.
like me personally. I can tell, we've all heard, uh, don't talk, don't, what do they say? Don't listen to respond, listen to understand.
Hmm.
I can tell when someone's listening just to respond.
Hmm.
And it's almost like they're holding their breath while you're talking.
Hmm.
They want to say what they want to say before you're even done
Hmm.
or even started sometimes. And it's like that's a no-no. I'm okay. Another thing that I do to kind of test whether or not it's worth anything is like I'll let somebody say something absolutely crazy, and I'll be like, "Oh," and just sit there. See if
Let's
they stand
just
on business.
ruminate. Yeah.
See if they stand on business, and just look at them. And then you know what they do? They go, Yeah, and but I can see other people's point of view too, and I know that sometimes things are different for others, and they backtrack because you thought
Mhm.
you were gonna come here for a fight and you got absolute dust, okay? And they didn't really want to have an engaging, thoughtful conversation. They just wanted the banter, probably because
Mhm.
they're bored, right? And it's like if they're not gonna stand on business, then that's another way to know. Just pause, give them the time and the space to just let it fall out and see if they come around to logic on their own. That's
Mhm.
one thing. Another thing that you can do, it's like some people are willfully ignorant, and the only way they think they can like get people to talk to them is to just expect the world to cater and flow and spoon feed all this information into their sphere and just like exist as some like starlight that is just like, oh, I didn't know. Wow. And it's like, huh, I asked this question. Oh my gosh, that's how you feel? What research have you done on it? Put the ball in their court. If they're
Mhm.
not doing any effort or research or like this much work to try to figure it out,
Mhm.
it's not worth your time or energy. So it's like those are some of my questions and my cues. And then the last thing I'll say is that the emptiest barrels make the most noise.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
you got somebody and they're just talking nonsense, they probably just want a reaction and it's very hollow. There's nothing really back there. So I kind of just look at it as like I don't want to say it's being recorded. I'm not going to say it.
Mhm.
But like some people cannot be unconvinced because it will go against everything that they've learned and it will
Mhm.
break their reality. It will
Mhm.
break how they were raised, where they went to school, all the people that they trust in their life were lying to them this whole time. They can't accept that reality. So they will
Mhm.
vehemently deny and go against what you say, even if it is true. And those are just things you have to watch out for and stay away from if you can.
So then let's say we have someone who is listening to understand and listening to hear
Yep.
what sets ChatBlackGPT apart from other AI chatbots? Or
Yeah.
is that even a correct summary
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ask that question? Okay.
No, it is. It's perfect because it's also for white people. Like literally.
Yay.
No, I
We have
love it.
allies. Come on, come on.
Yeah, but even for racist people, I want racist
Mhm.
people to go in there and use it. Just use
Mhm.
it. Just use it. Because what it does is it handholds racist people through their racism
Mm.
and helps them be better. You can ask it, why are black women so loud? Why are black people dangerous? Why are black people so angry? You can ask it
Mhm.
that. And it's
Mhm.
going to be like, that's not nice. You're probably saying that because of this is this. And historically, it could be in your mind that this is that because of this is this,
Mhm.
but it's actually this. And if you want to learn more, read XYZ.
Mhm.
My GPT takes you back into learning, back into books, and back into the real world. And that is 100% with purpose because we don't want to rely on AI. We
Mhm.
want to give people Black authored resources and answers. That's like the whole point, right? I want Black people and the scholars, the scientists, like all of that work to be acknowledged. And
Mhm.
that's the data that is prioritized in my GPT. So they can use it.
So, and I guess that also sounds helpful for people who might be embarrassed to ask a question.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't have any ill intent or whatever, but they don't want to be like, "Hey, black friend, can you answer this for me?" It gives them a resource to refer to. Okay.
absolutely. Yes.
So how does ChatBlackGPT address and mitigate racial biases in AI?
So basically like if something is really racist and like messed up, is usually from my experience, not coming from a Black person.
Mhm.
So I just basically taught the AI, like, hey, when we're asking questions about Black people, we're going to talk to Black people. So I want you to find a Black authored resource, a Black owned resource or book or literature or white paper it just goes to Black people first to answer the questions. It's like, suddenly it's a lot less racist. Because it's
What a
like,
concept.
you know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
when people are like, well, what's the difference? And I'm like, okay, Chat GPT is like going and talking to a white man. A white man. ChatBlackGPT is like talking to a group of Black people.
Mhm.
That's the difference.
Okay, I'm gonna shift it a little bit to say, for just broader AI and tech topics,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on the current state of AI ethics and regulation?
Um, I think that it's like a lot of people can afford to F up.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is if a company violates your rights, if a company doesn't consent to your data or doesn't give you informed consent to your data being used to train their models, hence what just happened with LinkedIn recently, it's like they can afford to go, oh, sorry, here's the button. You can turn it off yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that because we have these big players in control and already in possession of 10, 15 years of data from our lives, Facebook, I've been on LinkedIn for, oh God, I didn't even realize I had anniversaries on LinkedIn. But it's like they already have the data and they can afford to F up. And I think that is not great. Um, and so like for the state of like ethics and responsible AI, like I think we're gonna have to keep looking at Europe, honestly. We're seeing people get fined billions of dollars. We're seeing certain things cease to exist over there, like cameras or like Amazon ghost stores, like things like that. And we get to learn from somebody actually enforcing ethics and responsible AI and explainable AI and all of those things. And I think here we're just kind of like the guinea pigs of the wild west of AI. So I think the state of it is quite quite messy, and it is dangerous for Black and brown people, which is why I do what I do and why I care so much about what I do. A lot of people don't think AI is life and death for us, but in many cases it is and can be and already has been. And it's like that's not an exaggeration, and it's dangerous. But that's why I'm here. That's why we're here. We're developing, we're moving forward. But the other good part is that somebody like me can come and use the same technology to build for our community. And like, so while there's very like loose regulation and like, if any, really, like it's just crazy, it still allows for people like me to come out and make a difference. So it's like, got to make do.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, lead by example, I guess I'm trying to do. Yeah.
So, one last question, and then I'm gonna open it to you, or actually two, because the when I open it to you, it'll lead with a question. But there are a lot of people who hear all of the potential downfalls, and it's like, you know, s- scary things or intimidating things or whatever about AI, and then that leads them to completely shut it out. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to learn anything about it. No, no, no. And then at the beginning of this conversation, you used that term controlling your relationship with technology. How do you bridge the gap between the person who is like, yeah, no, I hear all the bad things that people are saying, and that's enough for me to get out of it. Um, how do you bridge that gap? How do you start that conversation with those folks?
Yeah, like not face to face, but like these kind of conversations, these rooms, this is a very intimate room,
Mhm.
but all of you guys are powerful, beautiful, brilliant women. I think it's all women. It's all women? Girls.
Look,
Yeah.
BGH has a plethora of folks. I love the fact that we're pretty diverse. That's neither here nor there, but no, it's not
Yeah.
all
Okay.
women and not all
People.
Black people. Yeah, people and
Great.
people.
Okay. Beautiful, brilliant people. And I don't know what you're going to do with this information. Are you going to be inspired? Are you going to feel more open-minded about it? Do you feel more educated? Do you feel more empowered to be curious? Like, got to have those conversations. What I call it is the balance of warning people about AI and warming them up to using it. Because if you do not use the product, you will become the product. And that is like literally exactly what's going on. Like if you're not like when you go to an airport and they're like stand here and you got this biometric thing scanning your face, you can say no.
Mhm.
And people don't know that. But if you don't think about AI and use AI and understand it and then set your own boundaries and define your own relationship with AI technology, then you're just going to become the product. And I say no for fun. My biometrics are probably I already put my DNA in 23andMe. I can't hide from
Mhm.
nobody, but I still exercise my right
Mhm.
because there may come a time where something is egregiously taking advantage of my data and my personal biometric data or any kind of data where I want to say no. So it's like you have to be mindful that it's dangerous, but also courageous to use it for your own good. And the main thing, especially for Black people, is that, yeah, we're on the shit end of the stick for this technology. Like, period. That is, you, I tell people, don't argue with me. Go argue with MIT. Go argue with the Human Rights Commission. Like, they're putting out papers left and right on all this bias, and it's everywhere. If you want to learn about it, you can.
Mhm.
But it's like once you realize that you do have a say and you can actually build with it, take advantage of that. It costs OpenAI $700,000 a day to run that company, and you can use their technology for free.
Mhm.
Do not take that for granted. I
Mhm.
do not think that is sustainable. I don't even think it's going to be like that for long at all. And they just switched to for profit. They just got rid of one of their high up people. Why? Probably because it ain't gonna be free like that. You know what I mean? So it's like take advantage of it now while it's open source and you can do whatever you want because one day it won't be free and it's gonna be like a delicacy that you have experience with the tool.
Mhm. Warning and warming. That was interesting. Um, is there, and this is my final question to you, and then if anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat and we'll pull from those here in a second. Is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get the opportunity to?
I would love to know what your guys' like goals are in AI, thoughts about AI. Are you tired of hearing about it? Have you tried to build anything? Like I can answer questions, things like that. I would say one thing that is important, you guys should seriously get into LinkedIn. If you're not, don't sleep on LinkedIn. Like, yeah, I just wrote a post about it, but I'm serious. Like,
Mhm.
I have gotten so much opportunity by just storytelling and writing and putting myself out there. And people like I'm gonna be speaking at Capital One uh on October 1st.
Mhm.
And do you know how much they're paying me to do that?
Tell me, girl. No, I'm just, you don't have to.
No, they asked me to speak for 30 minutes. They're paying me $8,000.
Big
30
bag.
minutes.
Hmm.
$8,000.
Hmm.
30 minutes. Okay? Because I'm sitting here doing this on LinkedIn.
Hmm. Building your voice and your brand. Yep.
Yeah. The best tool that you have is what you don't know because you can always talk about how you're learning,
Hmm.
why you're learning, what it's like to learn. Like conversational learning is so powerful and you all have the ability to do it. You all have something that you don't know and you can all talk about how you're learning.
Hmm.
So you can start there, but please do. Like it is such a powerful thing and it can draw a lot of attention and success to you.
Conversational learning. That's good
Mhm.
too. I think so many people, unfortunately, whenever they look at networking, it's highly transactional and
Mhm.
it's only, hey, I don't think you can give me anything, so I'm not talking to you. Or the person who was, I don't think, I'm not looking for a job, so I'm not going to get on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's beneficial for you to engage with folks just because you never know what you can pick up in conversation. Um, and there are folks who are on the same level. It might seem lateral or whatever, but that you can learn from because there are steps or things that they have taken or experiences that they have had that you can benefit from. It doesn't always have to be, what was it that Issa Rae said? Like it doesn't always have to be, you don't always have to reach up. If you reach out,
Uh-huh.
you can still learn and grow. So you wrote a book
Mm-hmm.
recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask you about that. Can you tell a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, it's called LinkedIn to Success, Founderpreneurship, and the Power of Storytelling.
Hmm.
And so basically what I'm doing is I'm going through all of my posts and then I'm telling the story behind the scenes.
Hmm.
How it happened, why it happened, when it happened, where did I mess up, where did I go right, what were the chance encounters that I had. Like, you would not believe how crazy things just connect and fall into place when you're just like putting yourself out there. I'll share it quickly. um, I went to South by Southwest and I was late for one of these groups. And I walk past the room, there's hallways everywhere. I'm walking past and I see this man in this hat. And I'm like, oh my God. So I go in this room and I'm like, I like your style. I was like, your
Yes,
hat
sir.
is a nice hat. And he was like, oh, thank you. I'm from LA, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, of course. And then, so we just
Not of
exchanged
course.
information, but
Hmm.
I didn't want anything from him.
Right.
So fast forward, weeks later, by the way, he just happened to be somebody in charge of like venture capital and all of this stuff.
Hmm.
I didn't go there, even though I have a startup. Months and months later, I'm here in DC.
Hmm.
And I get a phone call one day from somebody who is a senior vice president at
Hmm.
a huge, huge company. And they're like, I got your number and my boss wants to talk to you. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, yeah. So what? Your boss? I'm like, okay, what's this about? And where did she get my number from? She goes, my superpower is that I can find anybody black and intelligent in the United States because that's how well connected I am. And I got your information from Taj when I reached out to my network.
Hmm.
And that was the guy that I met at South by Southwest who happens to know all these high up people in these big institutions. Well, that makes sense because of what he does. But it's like, had I not introduced myself and
Hmm.
said hi to him, even with no real intention other than to just open myself up, that wouldn't have granted that inferred trust for the
Hmm.
senior vice president of this company to talk to him and then reach out to me directly and introduce me to her boss, which, by the way, that meeting just happened a couple of days ago, which is a big deal.
Hmm.
So, networking, super powerful, doesn't have to be up. I didn't know who he was. That
Right.
was out for
Hmm.
sure. But the book goes through those kind of things and just kind of details the importance of being human and showing up for each other and building community.
I do. NK put in the chat, do you think AI ChatGPT can improve disparities in healthcare and education?
Yeah, with the right people like me and you, if y'all do something about it. Like, literally, I had this woman who has 10 years of research for Alzheimer's, specifically in the Black community.
Hmm.
Like, that is like liquid gold for AI. And she hasn't released it to anyone. She's a doctor. If she were to go and build something that helps people like detect it or deter it or like slow someone's decline and those type of things, that's huge. Technology can definitely aid her data in mobilizing for good. 100%. Like, yes, it can have a major impact. You just have to have the right people with the right intentions there to make a difference.
Yeah, ask the right questions. Just like how we're fleshing out all these other things, as far as ethics, regulation, and all that. If they
Hmm.
have the right, as you mentioned, the right intention, um, then yeah, it has the potential to be a force multiplier for all of those things. I know Tanisha is currently getting her doctorate in specifically about that, like AI and its impact on using that to train the next generation of ethical hackers. So I know there are definitely folks who are engaged, who are concerned, who care,
Yeah.
who are working towards improving those disparities or decreasing those disparities.
Hmm.
Um, I had a question, and just like that, it went right out my head.
No worries.
That's all right. So, and either way, I'll pivot. It's been fantastic talking to you. I appreciate your time and um, the opportunity. What is your What would be your word of encouragement to yourself when you just got started in your career? Like, and it doesn't even have to be, when you just start ChatGPT, but like at the very beginning, at the onset, because when we're younger, for the most part, we all say, hey, when I grow up, I want to be XYZ, I want to do whatever. And so as we set those things that we want to do, we create this image of what success looks like. So as that I'm pivoting my question. What does success look like to you, and have you reached it?
Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad because when I was working at Meta,
Mhm.
I was so lost in the sauce, guys.
Mhm.
Listen, I had a penthouse
Mhm.
with 25-foot ceilings, brand new
Fancy.
BMW cash. I had a $14,000 Schnauzer. So dumb, don't do that. Um, I had Louis Vuitton earrings, purse, boots,
Mhm.
and I got a call from my grandmother. Now, my grandmother was suffering from dementia,
Mhm.
and she, for the very first time, could not make sense. She was talking to me, but she was not making any sense at all. And I was so just caught off guard by that I was like, I lost her. I lost my grandmother. She died twice for me because she
Mhm.
died here and then she died in physical form.
Mhm.
But I remember needing some space and I went in my beautiful SUV BMW with my Louis Vuitton, da, 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 and I parked in front of a lake in a secluded area and I cried for hours. I cried. I'm getting a little emotional now. But like, I truly thought that I was successful. I truly thought that I had made it. I truly, really felt like this is everything. I have the tech job, the penthouse, I have a husband, I got the dog, I got the cars, I got the shoes. And when my grandma called, she didn't make no sense. Nothing I had in my possession could make me feel better.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nothing. And it took all the power out of those material things just like that.
Mhm.
All the power. It meant nothing. None of that stuff could make me happy or feel better in that moment. And ever since then, I defined success so much differently. I really find success in people coming up to me and saying, hey, I started working on this thing because I saw what you were doing. Or, hey, I used ChatBlackGPT to help me deal with some racism my daughter was encountering.
Mhm.
Or, like I even just a young man who graduated with his master's degree in data science who wouldn't call himself a data scientist. I said, sir, what more do you need? You
Mhm.
are a data scientist. So, like, having an impact on people, that is success for me because it's
Mhm.
going to live and go beyond what I can even touch.
Mhm.
And that's what matters. So, am I successful in that sense? Absolutely. Do I still live in a nice apartment? Yes. Are my ceilings normal height? Absolutely. Like I've changed my priorities, but I do think success has to do with learning how to prioritize.
Mhm.
And right now I'm pregnant. I'm 3 months
Oh,
pregnant. Yes, so I'm
congrats.
having my first child. And
Mhm.
success for me is gonna be raising a family and having kids that aren't judgmental, that help others, that want to do good, that follow their passion.
Mhm.
Like I'm already my life it's not mine anymore, you know?
Mhm.
And being okay with that feels successful to me. So that's a long answer, but
But a good one.
uh,
And you held true to who you are. I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that with us because I know, Black Girls Hack, we are focused on training and learning and upskilling, reskilling, and all that. And that has value and it matters. But who you are as a person and making sure that as you achieve, as you grow, that it's the whole you that develops and improves. Um, because we don't want to have people who are, like, okay, so you work out this arm, but this arm does nothing and it
Mhm.
has no, we want you to have balance, growth, and health. And so a couple things that I wanted to say is one, what you mentioned too, when we're having those conversations with people who are around instead of up or whatever, everyone has value.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll have those situations where that person will connect to someone else and connect to someone else, and you don't want to rob yourself of that opportunity. But then sometimes just having that connection and being a decent human being to someone else in and of itself is worth its weight in gold because you never know what that person is going through. So I it might be a little, Oprah masterclass, whatever, but I think it matters
Mhm.
for our mental health, our overall health, and for people to know the import and value that they have and that they bring to the world. So even if you feel, because I know sometimes with imposter syndrome, we get started and we're like, I don't have this experience, I don't have that, oh, I didn't get this job, so whatever. The sum total of your value is not wrapped up in that. And
Mm.
I'm so appreciative, excuse me, now I'm getting choked up too, to talk to you, but I'm so appreciative of you for having the confidence in self, or even if it's courageous, because sometimes when that confidence isn't there, because you're a human being, to still be vulnerable, to still be open, and to still be who you are, because that in of itself is a great example for other folks to do the same. You have permission. You don't need to ask for it from everyone else. So just to let you know, you have permission to show up as your authentic self, and that very authentic self might be what we need
Mhm.
to fit the thing. So I think sometimes we are like, oh wait, but what do I do so that I can be you, do you? Um, anyway, again, I appreciate you. I did see another comment here from Gabrielle. Getting into the AI field, it feels like there's an explosion of job openings, and at the same time, it feels like the field is absolutely flooded and saturated. Um, what would you say is the best way to carve a pathway in? What is the best pipeline to pursue?
Yeah, thank you so much for your comment there as well, Rebecca. I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be here. Um, so you have to do like what they call it in corporate America is role to position mapping. Uh, what do you want to do, and how is AI going to play a role in that? So you need to think, I think what I would suggest is not about AI, but what you want to do and what kind of AI can get you there further, help you do it better,
Mhm.
or, like just accelerate things for you because AI is a helper. Um, and that's the best way to frame it because in my opinion, because it's like nobody's an expert in AI week to week.
Mhm.
AI changes and it evolves, and there's something new and different, and all of this constantly. So nobody can be like a forever expert on the emerging technology because it's constantly emerging. You can be an expert on like how it's built and how, its core is, but still the innovation is important. So it's like, it depends on what you want to do. So like think about that first and then how AI can be your helper or be a part of the picture to getting you there or helping you do that thing better. For example, like people were like freaking out about being a prompt engineer when it first happened. And I was like, prompt engineering, I'm like, that's kind of just like I think we're all kind of prompt engineers if we get curious enough.
Mhm.
We're going to ask a million questions in a million different ways to try to get the answers that we need. And that as a job kind of came and went. But the skill itself is still good. And let's say you want to be a researcher or you're doing like forensic tech investigations, like you still need those skills. AI can help you be better at that. But it's like try to think not don't reverse it because the AI is constantly changing and you'll get overwhelmed, kind of like it sounds like you're saying. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? Did that make any sense?
It did to me. I'll give the opportunity to the person who asked to see if it addressed. Otherwise, we've come up on time, and I want to be respectful of it. So, um, thank you again for your time, and for sharing with us and your vulnerability and your insight. Oh, perfect. They just replied, yes, thank you. It does make sense. And then
Okay, cool.
also congratulations on the little
Um,
bundle of joy. Um, my own little bid. I make a great aunt
Ah,
and godmother.
you're hired.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Erin Reddick is on LinkedIn. Follow her. There's so much insight that she shares. Um, and so many things that there's so many nuggets that you can leverage for your own life, path, career, and everything else. So thank you again. This has been Bring a Hacker to Work Day. I'm no Tanisha Martin, but I do try to be her good second in command. And so I hope all of you have a fantastic day and that you make the most of every opportunity that's given to you and that you do the best for yourself and the world.
All right.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.